Christar, people. Christar. Hello, Tom.
Dana, we meet again.
Dun dun dun.
I don't know if people are happy or sad about that. If
We
you're
meet
listening,
for
I'm
the first
assuming
time, for the very last time.
I I imagine if you're tuning into this, you're probably happy that this is happening. So that's a plus.
Yeah.
Not too bad. So how you
Unless they're some sort of masochist and we cause some discomfort.
hate watching is a thing. I didn't think that was possible. Very much so. Like, oh, I can't stand that jerk. I'm gonna watch him for 6 hours and then be real mad.
Right. Well, there are people who just like to feel mad. That's okay.
I think we're all kind of guilty of that sometimes. Like I watched the last two seasons of Westworld, and that could only, I guess, be described as hate watching because it's like I'm in it now. I guess.
Yeah, you got to get
It's
through
like,
it. It's like why people watched the last season of Heroes, watched
oh
the
man,
Lost.
heroes. I gave up after season one. I couldn't. I got halfway through two, and I was like, you know what? Enough.
What, of Lost? It was
Yeah,
idiotic. I don't
had
know
enough.
why. I recently watched it. Like I didn't watch it the entire thing. Like I was like I don't have time for this.
Look, they got
And recently, within the last 6 months,
Mhm.
started watching it. And episode 2, I was like, this is the single stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. How was an entire nation of people wrapped up in this? It is ridiculous.
I feel like that's a very concise observation about our current times. But what about the polar bear, man? Also, they got really sucked in by that enticing theme song. Shunk.
Okay.
That's that's all you get.
It's not the dun dun from Law and Order. That's for sure.
No, Law and Order is awesome. They got a little carried away when they went on to like what was it, Trial by Jury, when like the band just got way too excited about the intro. But
Right. Well,
overall, love that
they were doing
love
some
that
good
theme.
stuff. So anyway.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
So
did you
welcome
get
to
anything new to
yes.
to
So,
show on Two
uh,
Guys Talking Toys? Why
I
do we
know,
not?
not
We're a
well,
100+ episodes. Why do we still stink at this? Two Guys Talking Toys. That's us.
welcome to the episode. Yeah, if we don't say it, you don't really know what the episode's about or what we're doing. Like, wait, I tuned into
Right.
Two Guys Talking Toys, and they've been going on about sitcom intros for the last 20
Yeah.
minutes. What is happening?
It's just
Well,
two guys talking.
well, that's
Two
yeah,
guys
Two
talking.
Guys Talking. That'll be our sister podcast. So, I mean, I am very glad that people are watching and listening. And if you're doing that, then I hope that you're subscribing to the episode, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, drop us a like, all that fun stuff. So this week has been kind of I still hate Walmart. Like, I don't want there to be any question about my disdain for the
Wait,
company as a
what
whole.
stores do you
However,
not hate?
Play World. I love I love Play World. I'm sad it's gone.
Oh,
I hold a candlelight vigil every couple of weeks, just hoping it'll come back, and it still hasn't. It breaks my heart.
right.
Uh,
You need
However,
the red witch from Game of Thrones to bring it
yeah,
back.
but Walmart for the most part sucks. Target also kind of sucks. They're getting what they deserve right now. Their sales are pretty down. But on the upside, every now and then they do something right, or sunlight shines on a dog's butt, or whatever the saying is. Every now and then that happens. And last week that kind of happened a couple of times for Walmart. So we all know how much I love their CollectorCon nonsense and waking up and then going and
Right.
logging in online and seeing that all the things that I wanted sold out before I even got a chance to boot up the web page. But when they were running the Ninja Turtles He-Man crossover, they had Snake Shredder and King Hiss Foot Soldier up for pre-order, and I did it the second it popped up, and then it sat there
Did it actually
forever, and
work?
then well, after seeing lots of people online be like, "Hey, I got mine," and "Hey, my thing's processing," because that's what we went through with Leatherhead. Uh, Amazingly, my Snake Shredders shipped.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
I ordered two. He's pretty awesome
Of
looking.
course you did.
I need. I think I need more of him. But I was debating whether or not the closer we got to it, and when they started popping up on eBay, I was like, do I just cancel those pre-orders or do I just buy an overpriced one now because I don't know if they're going to show up in stores, and these are end of the line figures, so like the anxiety is real because I don't
Right.
know if these are going to exist or not, or people are going to like
I mean, loyal listeners,
are
he's been a nervous wreck for like 2 weeks now. He
been
hasn't eaten. Look,
it's been,
he's lost weight.
it's
He hasn't been able to eat
it's all stress. It's all stress related.
over this shredder snake man.
All over these toys. So I got him. I'm very excited. They actually shipped out, and I feel bad for anybody that ordered this, pre-ordered it, and now I'm seeing the trickle of people saying that their orders were canceled. So
Wow.
I sympathize with anyone who did what they were supposed to do. They tried to go the correct route and order their super shredder, and they got it canceled. So I hope that anyone that tried to get a hold of this actually got theirs shipped out, or maybe you're lucky enough to see it on a store shelf. So
I'm proud
Snake
of you, Tom,
Shredder,
because there are people in the world who'd be like, I got mine. If you didn't get yours, tough duty, blah, blah, blah. Nah, 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 nah,
yeah.
nah, nah. But I'm glad you're like sympathetic. Look, I got mine. Celebrate with me
I
anyway. I'm sorry you didn't get yours.
yeah, I hope everybody gets theirs. And this is why I am not, I know that we differ on our stances with exclusives, but I feel like
Ah,
everybody should get something. Uh so the other big deal is that okay, so I got Snake Shredder, and that's awesome. And he looks awesome. And I need to at some point kind of crack him out. But
crack them out.
gotta crack him out. Or
So many
open him
things
up.
that come out of
I
your
don't
mouth. I don't
it's just word stew. Whatever comes flying out, you might get. I may not know
I
what I'm
like my
gonna
toys like my friends. Cracked out. They're
crack
right.
out. They don't look. They're not very needy, and you walk away, you don't feel bad about it. So the other one, super surprised to find King Hiss on an
Nice.
actual shelf. So Shredder was mailed out. I will probably never see him on a shelf, and I really did not expect to see King Hiss on a shelf. And I walked in
No.
just randomly, looking around, expecting to see more
Wait,
leather
don't you have
heads.
like three of them ordered? Because you wanted to make them super tall, right?
I sure did. I still I had to pop him open to stack him. So him,
Crack them open, Tom.
you'll
Crack
be
them up.
excited. You'll be excited. I cracked one of them open already. And he's
Nice.
fantastic. He's so cool. He's so much fun. He is amazing. He's all stacked up. He's got his double snake torso going on.
Does he glow?
No,
God, that line of toys does a great job of faking you
there.
out for the glow.
There could have been such a cool glow effect on him, and I'm really sad that it
Did
didn't
you see
happen.
those glow in the dark
But
fish guys at Big Bed? Did you order those?
oh, I did. I was I timed my timing was wrong. The Monsters
Right. Yeah.
Kickstarter. I my timing was off, and I wasn't able to get in and put a pledge in. It was one of those things where there was a couple of different Kickstarters going on, and I had pledged to a couple of them, and I was like, okay, I got this, and then I'll come back and I'll put something down on this, and then I just lost track of time, and then it was over, and I was like, oh, dag nabbit. But I will definitely be getting them from Big Bad because I want the glow in the dark ones and the clear ones and the color swap ones. They look really really cool.
Yeah, yeah, they're fun.
But King Hiss looks super duper cool, and so I started messing around with him. The head on him is great, but
That's a
I
huge noggin. Oh God,
yeah,
popping heads off
and
already.
and I feel
But
like
what do you do? You just pull
it's
them apart. I
oh
can't
yeah.
do that.
See you need to get some more Origins guys because they're made for this kind of treatment. So you won't feel bad. It's
I
not.
have Adam right here. Should I pop his head off?
Yeah, rip his head off. It's meant for that to
Oh, there it
happen.
is.
There you go.
Okay,
Look at
Adam's
that.
head is off.
I am super proud of you, and I may play some victory music right here because I know that's a big thing for you, and I feel like you should be just get in there, pop the heads off, pull off the
I'm
arms.
always afraid, like the old school, like whenever you tried to do it, you broke the thing. And
Yeah, don't do it with the legs. No, do it with the legs. Like even the legs on these guys
oh,
now meant to be pulled off. When they had the rubber bands,
oh
don't do
no,
it.
no.
But you could try. That's what crazy glue is for. But the King Hiss head on the larger buck looks great. I kind of wish
Oh yeah, yeah. It looks more,
yeah. I mean, I know that
proportionate.
he's supposed to be a snake, so he's kind of lithe and has that thinner look to him. But I I'm glad that I have a couple of these because I need to put them on some larger bucks. He also looks really good on Krang's body, and it looks a little more natural too because that's got the normal
That's a
green,
color. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and with the midsection that has the Krang cage in it. It looks great, but I hope we get, you know, Origins has just been cranking out kind of whatever they want now. Like they just there was just a reveal of the sketchbook version of Cyclone that's
Hmm.
going to be coming out. So they're just putting out whatever. So we're give me this on a bigger buck with some scaling texture on it, and
It
I'll
sounds
be
like you're ready to
super
bust
happy.
into. I like big bucks.
I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. But I will admit that normally my stance on figures that you find in the store, that you take one. If there's three sitting there, then you take one or two and leave one for the next collector that comes along because you don't know. Um, I did not adhere to that for King Hiss because I really love him and he's mine. I want all of them. So
All right.
this was one of those times where I kind of went against. You call me a hypocrite. I had to have all of them. So, and I don't know if I'm ever going to see these again. So, uh, you know,
All right. We'll let this one time
so,
slide, Tom.
so yeah,
One time.
let me have this one this one time. Normally, I'm pretty good about leaving at least one or two for the next person to come along and get theirs, but not this time. Not with his. Not with the end of the line. I will probably never see this guy on shelves again. Oh, you know what? Swapping the heads around kind of it reminds me that Slash's head just a little too big. I
It is.
feel
He
like
does
I
have
get
a
what
bit of a pumpkin head, but
yeah, I get what they were going
but
for.
but
It's a
snapping
little
turtles do. Snapping turtles do. So we'll give him that.
that is true. All right, so that was my get. I mean, sorry, real quick. This has been like a snake filled weekend. I also pulled these out of storage because I'm redoing my Snake Men display. So Squeeze, who I completely forgot that I
I
had,
love
but I
that there are multiple S's. Like his name's Squeeze.
yes,
Like a
every
lisp. I am
every time he has
I'm squeezed.
every time he has a conversation with King Hiss, it just takes forever.
My
Their,
liege, King
their meeting
Hiss.
their meeting starts at 10:30. Rattler's hanging outside the doors. Tongue Lasher comes by and he's like, "Man, it is 2:30. He's been in there all day, and they haven't even gone through the morning agenda. What are we doing? Just one S, please." Uh, so,
Enough,
so that's
guys.
so that's like a whole bunch of snake stuff, which is neat. What have you picked up? Oh,
Well,
I'll go after you. Continue.
what, do you have something in a box? Is that what it
I
is?
I
Go
sure
ahead.
do, but I've
Do
eaten
it.
up
Do
enough
it.
times.
No, get it. Get
Now
it.
we're gonna do it now.
Crack it out.
Yeah, we'll do it now because I did to get another package. I really did not intend for this to continue being a
The
thing
the
that
reason why I let you go ahead is because I have Cadbury mini eggs to eat. Hopefully they're not too crunchy.
oh, look, you gotta as I said earlier, you gotta crack into those things and
Crack it up.
crack it up, crack them out, do it as loud as possible. That way you know you're enjoying it. All right, so this is what I thought it was. There were I love finding auctions for things that everyone, or I shouldn't say everyone, lots of sellers think are worth $1 billion, and
Like babies.
yeah, like they're not worth that much. The game of
No.
life taught us that.
Buck fifty
Yeah,
most.
kids are you can trade them in for cash at the end of the game, but then it varies depending on if you have like a boy or a girl or whatever. But so online I found just regular auctions for more
Oh, nice
Ninja
glow in the
Ooze
dark.
glow in the dark Super 7 Ultimates Ninja Turtles. And I've been stalking these things since I missed the original pre-order because they were a little pricey. They were a little up there. And, to get all four at once, kind of a lot. But I've been selling stuff online, so I had a little bit of a nest egg held up for some well-timed spending. So I'm down 3 out of 4. I've done 3 out of 4 so far. So
Nice.
I got Michelangelo a few weeks ago. Managed to snag Donatello and Raphael. I sniped these. Thank you very much to Gixon, the online automatic sniping tool, where you can just put in your
Wow.
bid, It'll snipe it at the last second. You'll probably get what you want, especially if it's something that not a lot of people are bidding on. And
Those
I
kind of
snipe
things
these
aggravate
too.
me.
You need to get on board and do it more often.
What's it
Why
called?
aggravate?
Dicky? Is it
Get
called Dicky?
Dixon.
Oh,
Dixen. Get on it. It's great. I don't know why people would prefer to aggravate themselves by sitting and watching an auction tick down to the final seconds. You don't know if you're
because
you
there's
don't know
a
if you're
thrill of victory.
no. I want a surety of victory. I like calculated risks. I want to know that I'm probably like knowing you're probably going to get it is better than I don't know if I'm going to get it. I want these and got them for less than the original retail price for these. So
Oh, there you
I'm
go.
on board. Yeah, combine the shipping, just even better. So now my final the last one on the to get list is Leonardo. And there is currently the same seller, the same person that was selling these. Yeah, I tried to snipe Leonardo as well, and he got away. But then Leonardo was immediately relisted, so I was a little confused. So I was like, dude, does he does he just want more for Leonardo? I'm not sure. So I'm going to try my luck again and see what happens.
Right, crack it
But
up.
not bad. Three out of four glow in the dark Ninja Turtles. Every now and then, patience is a virtue, I guess.
Especially when you're using Dicky.
I aren't those don't those people make shoes?
Yes, and work pants. Yes. Um,
So
so
what you got? What'd you pick up?
I was doing my weekly Ollie's walkthrough today,
Mhm.
and I found the movie version, the new movie version kind of re-release of Kickback.
Nice. Your Ollie's gets way better stuff than the one near me. I guess the whoever the resellers are don't come through and arm broom all of your stuff into the carts.
The funny thing, I'm still seeing these on shelves though for
Yeah.
35, $40 at like
Yeah.
um Newberry Comics and
Hmm.
FYE. I'm still seeing them. And I'm not a huge Transformers fan like you are, but I remember them as kids and
Hmm.
I played with them and I like the characters, but I loved the Insecticons when they came out
Yes.
same time as the Constructicons,
Hmm.
which made the combined to make Bruticus, right?
Devastator. You were
Devastator.
close.
I was
You were close.
close.
Verticus came later.
Yeah, but anyway, they came out at the same time, and it was cool. And I
Uh-huh.
love the Insecticons. Like the Insecticons and the Dinobots, of course, were some of my
Yeah.
favorites. And I would like to get the others of these. And it's cool. It's the movie version, so it's got the thing which they always had, but it came with the Energon cubes.
So smart.
Yeah,
I did love that when I was younger because how many people knew at the time that these were imported from a completely different toy line? So we had
right,
no idea that a little pilot guy was supposed to go in there. We just thought it was a cool compartment to
right.
hold, whatever extra stuff. And I, they did so many unique things with them in the cartoon that I always thought was really cool.
Yeah,
Like I love that Shrapnel had that weird speech tick where he would repeat the last syllable of the
right.
last word in a sentence. They're like, why? Because it's just a weird
It's
thing that he
cool.
does.
Yeah,
I love that he got crazy powerful in lightning, which they
yep.
only used a couple of times, but why?
But that visual in the cartoon was
Mm-hmm.
cool. Like the sky
Yeah.
would turn black and the
Yep.
yep.
Uh, I also love that it was one of the, I guess, kind of the earliest introduction of classism in Transformers.
Right,
That
yes, you
like
discussed that before, yeah.
yeah, that even the Decepticons were like, ew, Insecticons. I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
they got there before you. What were they supposed to do? They had
but
to
they were cool.
adapt.
And they
They're
gave
like,
you
oh, they turned into bugs. Gross.
a bunch of Energon cubes.
Oh, that is neat.
Yeah.
Are they all stuck together or do they?
No, that's just how I'm holding them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, they're very,
They're
very, very dexterous.
there's six total. And they're not squishy, but they're soft. Like they're cool that you could play with. Like they're little.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
I kind of hope that they release a Soundwave that has the clear box. Do you remember how he would make the box for the
Right.
Energon? They would
Yeah,
fill
and
it
they make
up.
that cool noise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, what a weird, cool
Right.
power.
Like
Like,
why?
why does he? Why,
Why
when
is
did
he
he
the one in the
decide
end?
he's the only one? He's like,
Yeah,
can somebody else do this? Well,
right.
Soundwave, when
Make the
someone else is
Walkman do it. He's worthless otherwise.
well, they're like, well, Soundwave, when someone else's chest is shaped like a rectangle, then they can do it. But until
Well,
then,
yeah.
it's yours. Shockwaves are all uneven, so it's all you, buddy. But
You
yeah,
know what
it's cool.
else? Go ahead.
It's cool that you found Insecticons. The one near me has the G1 version of Perceptor.
Oh, cool.
Always neat, but I know that there are people that love the like the classic stuff, and they want to recollect all of the original Transformers things and like the '86, just straight up re-release it as if it came out of the original mold. And my mindset is why?
Well,
Because
yeah,
they've
that's why I didn't.
we
I really like these, but I didn't buy them when they came out because I
mhm.
don't want to spend $40 for that much money.
Yeah,
I could go get the original ones, probably
yeah.
cheaper on eBay
And
than the $40. But for Ollie's 9.99, heck yeah,
we've come so far, and I've said this before that I really feel like engineering from Takara and Hasbro has hit the point where there is a toy line that was called Masterpiece that was introduced years ago, and it was amazing, and they could do all the engineering that normally couldn't do at a higher price point, and that's why it was Masterpiece. And now we've hit the point where the regular retail line are almost mini masterpiece figures. The
right,
the engineering is really smart. There's a lot of clever tricks that are put in there. The amount of kibble in robot mode versus vehicle mode for a lot of the Transformers has really shrunken down to almost nothing. Like I'm thinking specifically of Sideswipe, where he goes from car to robot, and he's just an action figure, and there's not really anything hanging off of him, and there's no like, oh, that's just a guy that stood up and he's got a car hanging off of his
right,
back now.
right,
Like
yeah.
that's not the case anymore. So for me, and this is nothing against anyone that likes collecting the original look, because I get
No,
it.
untrue.
But
He's
for
purposely trying to
me,
offend you.
I am doing this ironically and mocking you. But I can't. It doesn't work for me, brother. I just can't.
Oh, that was
I
very Hulkster
I,
like.
I can't do it. I can't put them over. It's
You,
not gonna work.
you know what else happened when I was in Ollie's today? I saw they got in some new Marvel Legends, and they got some of the Void Build-A-Figure line. They had Namor,
I'm super impressed that they got
crazy
the
haired
Void toy
Namor.
line.
Yeah, but you know who was in that line that I couldn't find? I was really hoping to find the more Crystar. You know, I'm not one to
Hmm.
buy multiples of one figure, but if there
Hmm.
is, going to be Crystar because I love Crystar, which of course got me thinking about how much I love Crystar and the original
Hmm.
line,
Hmm.
which was made by the toy company Remco.
Good
So
old
I
Remco.
thought today, because we flashed on Remco at one of a couple
Hmm.
of episodes ago. I think it was
Yeah.
99.75. Uh, we were like, we need to talk about Remco because
Yeah.
Remco has made very cool toys.
They're
And
always in the conversation.
when they were coming out, they were like low end toys. And now
Yeah.
on the collector market, a lot of them are, to get them in mint shape in the box are a little bit pricey, especially, and we'll get into them. But
Hmm.
but I love Crystar, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, we have to talk about Crystar, which was the greatest toy line to come out in 1982. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know what else came out in 82, but I mean, I'm sure I can name a bunch. But
It's
Crystar
stiff competition.
was a small line, but
Hmm.
so beautifully sculpted, and the translucent characters with that
Hmm.
plastic,
Yeah.
just incredible. And the crystal sword and the shield, and he had the helmet that came. The Marvel Legends helmet doesn't come off, but in the original one,
Hmm.
his helmet came off, and
Did
that
you
was
did you
cool.
get the Marvel Legends version?
I did, yeah,
Okay.
of course. Because I ordered them. I pre-ordered them in advance. I was not going to risk not getting a
I
new Crystar. Now I wish he was bigger
hmm.
because they had two sizes in the
Yeah.
toy line, which was kind of neat. Like Crystar and Moltar were big. They were a full, 4 inches, whereas the other, and they were bulkier. Whereas like Warbow and Magma Man were a
Hmm.
full head shorter than they were. I'm more of a 3 3/4 inch type, and and the wizards, Zardeth and God, I can't, Odie,
Mhm.
um, were smaller, and then even smaller than them was Feldspar because he was cool. He was half rock on his lower
Mhm.
half, and he was crystal on the top half,
Oh, that's
and he
cool.
was sort of the mediator. Like
Mhm.
he was the the envoy between the two, which was pretty cool.
This I I've heard you talk about Chris Starr before, and I wasn't into it when I was younger. Like
Shame on you.
I knew of him, but it wasn't. Which is kind of funny because my fascination with anything that is clear. Like even back then, like I liked
Right.
one of my favorite parts of the Dinobots, aside from them being dinosaurs, was the cool like random clear parts on them. And I was like,
Yeah, that
that's
was
so neat. I
weird.
wonder why. And I never questioned it. I just thought it was super cool and wanted other Transformers to have it. But again, I didn't realize that they came from other lines. But Kristar never. I don't think I ever like looked for him. I don't think there was a show. What was the story behind Kristar? Like
I mean,
what
it
was
was
the
sort of generic, fighting for the planet and these,
uh
very, very almost
it's
He-Man-esque, you know what I
mhm,
mean? They needed the power of the elements for the planet, but
yeah.
they just fought.
That's
A lot of
that's
those.
one of those lines that you kind of would love to have seen the full He-Man treatment to have been given to it.
Yeah.
Because when it came out, because it only has that it's just kind of one wave, isn't it? Like there's
Yeah,
no
there was the figures that I just
mhm.
named,
Yeah.
and then the dragons, the crystal dragon and the lava
Oh,
dragon.
that's
Each
right.
each one of those had a rider, but they were
Hmm.
a solid figure with these giant bowed legs that would go on the
Hmm.
dragon. And then so it was Christar Moltar, the two wizards, Magma Man, Feldspar, oh, and Warbo, who was
Hmm.
like Christar's right hand guy, who was my favorite figure, believe it or not. He was green, like Christar's blue.
Uh-huh.
Warbo was green. He had
Hmm.
this cool bandolier, bald eye patch. Of course, all the cool
Hmm.
guys have eye patches, and this giant crossbow that would hook onto his arm, and it was a
Yeah.
giant green crossbow. And
Uh-huh.
then there was the castle, which was that molded single sheet of plastic with stickers on it, like,
Hmm.
but it too was translucent blue plastic. So it was very cool.
I can't imagine what that goes for in the aftermarket. I've never
I
looked it
don't
up, but I'm
Yeah,
it's
it's been a while since I looked it up because there was one time I was debating whether to get that or the Kenner Hall of Justice off
oh,
eBay, and
okay.
then I broke my brain and got neither.
It's a tough call.
Yeah. But yeah, Crystar was one of my favorite lines, and when I think about Remco, they have a lot of cool lines that were a huge part of my childhood. One of them, of course, being the AWA wrestlers.
Mhm.
Did you have any of
So
those when you were young?
I did not have any of those. I did learn and I guess I'm not too surprised by it, but I did learn that Remco was one of the people who put in a pitch to WWE to make the WWE action figures,
Right.
and they got I think LJN wound up with the license,
Yeah,
but there
LJN
was
had the big rubber ones.
yeah, there was a lawsuit brought up. I don't remember if it was against LJN or if it was against Jax, but there was a lawsuit brought up claiming that there were kind of like illegal practices that were happening that prevented possibly superior action figure pitches from being seen by WWE executives to
Huh.
ensure that one company got the license versus another. And I don't remember if it was brought up against LJN or if it was against Jax, but
Had to
I
be
do know that
LJN, I would think, because at that time,
Mhm.
Jack Pacific didn't have, they weren't.
Yeah, but Remco is one of the companies that was kind of like up in the running for that. So I wouldn't be surprised. It makes a lot more sense now because
Yeah.
looking at like the bucks that they used for it. Like, granted, He Man was. It's kind of amazing to me that He Man became the general base buck design for
Mhm.
muscle men, which fed
Right.
directly into wrestling. So you're like, I could sculpt something that looks like these dudes, but we're gonna need like a basic buck to replicate these off of for all the generic guys that are wrestling.
Hmm.
He-Man works, that formula works, so just apply it to wrestlers. And it made
Right.
all the sense in the world.
It made all the sense in the world. And the AWA was funny because, we were huge wrestling fans when we were young.
Hmm.
But, Dale and I, well, more so me, I was, WWE, and that was pretty much it. And I'd watch Glow on Sunday when it was on.
Hmm.
Um, and then, Dale dabbled a little bit because he and his buddies would read the magazines. But
Yeah.
Derek was like, became a scholar of wrestling history when we were young.
Hmm.
And like, he knew of Harley Race and this person, like, before they became WWE faces,
Yeah.
right? So, like, I didn't know who Ric Flair was
Hmm.
until Derek spotted like the Remco AWA wrestlers and was excited to find Larry Zbyszko. And he was like,
Uh-huh.
"Look, it's Larry Zbyszko." And I was like, "Cool. Who the hell's Larry Zbyszko?" And
He
like,
doesn't make cookies and crackers. I don't know what you're talking about.
right. But it was the Remco toy line that made
Hmm.
me research and find out who, like, Stan Hansen and Jerry Blackwell and the Long Riders and
Hmm.
Larry Zabrisco and Mike Rotundo, like the
Yeah.
Road Warriors were in that line. Um, it was that toy line that introduced me, well, that toy line via Derek
Hmm.
introduced me to the wider world of the territories of wrestling. And then,
Hmm.
you start to see those. And then like Baron von Raschke was in that line. I had no idea who that was, but he had the cool hand with the claw, right? It was like, in Derek's mind and how he presented it to us, because the AWA wasn't as flashy as the
Yeah.
WWF. It didn't have a Vince McMahon doing all kinds
Hmm.
of nutbag things, right? So it was more like real wrestling, right?
Hmm.
Even though you had Dusty Rhodes and, Abdullah the Butcher slicing their face off with a thing.
Yeah. They,
But
they were they
that's
were presented more as like, oh, this is a real thing, and Vince was
right.
leaning more, got way more into like kind of the carny aspect, like kind of bringing
Yes.
that back. It was a show versus we're here to do catch as catch can wrestling that sometimes gets a little out of hand.
Right. There was no rock and wrestling collection in the AWA. But, and then yeah, Dale was a big Magnum TA fan before he passed
Hmm.
really prematurely. Um,
Yeah.
and it was that opened up a whole other world. And then when you saw those people show up in the WWF,
Hmm.
when Barry Windham showed up and others, you're like, hey, wait a minute, wasn't he in the AWA?
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool to see that happening. So,
Now
that that
where did
Remco
you
line opened up a whole broader range of things for me.
now where were you getting these from? Because I actually don't remember seeing them in like a Play World or I didn't go to Toys R Us till I
I
was
think
much
I
older,
think
but
they did show up there, but we got most of our Remco stuff at
mhm,
at Woolworths over in Center Moriches.
that makes sense. I know that
Yeah.
they're I know that Woolworths carried a lot of name brand stuff, but they also had a lot of the maybe lesser known brands
Hmm.
that either maybe couldn't get shelf space in some of the larger
Right.
places. Like they may
And I
they
feel
may
like
have
they were at Modell's too.
yeah, they may have been in Models, but I don't recall. Also, I would have been distracted by He-Man and Sectors, but uh,
Yeah.
I Woolworths makes a lot of sense to have carried that and carried a lot of them. Because I'm sure that whatever it was they were offering, I'm sure Woolworths would have been interested.
Right. And that's also where I found one of my other favorite, and this popped up in my head today. Today was like a Remco day for me. Um, the Sergeant Rock figures, because GI
Hmm.
Joe was big, right? And
Yeah.
but you had to wait for them to come out, the next series, the next line.
Hmm.
And in between you would find, so Remco had the Sergeant Rock figures, which
Hmm.
were GI Joe size, but had that World War II look. They weren't as
Yeah.
articulate, but they had a lot of vehicles and they were really a lot less expensive than the GI Joe guys. So
Hmm.
you could go,
Yeah.
you had a week's allowance and you didn't find GI Joe you liked, you can go down and buy a Jeep, You know, they had the little jeeps and the raft
Mhm.
and the helicopter, and
Yeah,
the bad guys were simply called the bad guys, but they had this
I
cool
love that.
they had this cool black packaging with these black
That's
outfits. And it even had like I think it had a cobra. It's like an orange cobra. It said the bad guys. And then on
mhm.
the bottom, it was the first toy line I've ever seen. Said works, plays well with G.I. Joe. You know what I mean? They
Mhm.
they, they
The
literally
cross
said
the
buy
they
for
they
G.I.
master
Joe.
they mastered the art of the cross sell, which is completely smart.
Right.
Because I mean,
It's
we
genius.
got away from that for a long time. I don't know if it was fear of other companies or like
Well,
just
now
not
you'd
wanting to
probably get
say the other
sued for
name.
that. Yeah.
But now you see with a lot of lines, I take that back. More so with the kind of independent toy lines where they'll produce something and then they just show it off next to an established line. Like this is this figure, but it plays well with this, like the Valiverse stuff.
Yeah.
It's its own line, it's its own existence. But if you just happen to put some of these guys with the dreadnoughts,
Looks good.
hard pressed to tell the difference, which is
Right. If
smart.
if the corpse would have done it, or the
Yeah.
what's that other one, the
Hmm.
Lanyard, whatever they're called. Yeah, they're pretty good. If they'd say plays well with G.I. Joe. The thing that made Sergeant Rock pop into my head today is I saw McFarlane's DCEU figures. I saw the new
Hmm.
Year Two Batman at
Okay.
Walmart and the Adam Strange, all
Hmm.
both the Silver Collector's Edition,
Hmm.
and both of them come with guns. So
Yeah.
why didn't he give Sergeant Rock a gun? Remember when I showed him and we were talking
Yeah.
about, well,
He had
maybe they're
every
going in this direction,
he had
but
everything else
now,
but.
I mean, now Batman has a gun, Sergeant Rock doesn't. Like, what kind of world do we live in?
You got to buy that weird 50 plus gun pack so you can get all kinds of guns, even a
Yeah, he's
weird
gonna be like,
silly Looney Tunes ray gun.
and then he'll really look like a
I
McFarlane character.
I I Oh, it's funny you bring up McFarlane just as a quick aside because remember I showed off the Red Hood figure that I found
Yeah,
that, but he had the black
black
jacket and
jacket.
yours
Yeah,
yours had the brown jacket. So now like I've been low key looking for the brown jacket one, and I was in Walmart hoping to have like more luck finding more hisses, but I found another Red Hood, and I was like, "Oh, cool, Red Hood! Oh, it's the black jacket one. It's the super red. I keep finding the exclusive
right,
instead of
right.
finding the
Because the other
regular
one was on the
release.
shelf 6 months ago.
Yeah, so now I actually want the regular one, and I don't. I can't get away from the exclusive, hard to find platinum edition.
Right. Uh, talking about back to the AWA wrestlers. Now they got a
Mhm.
lot of mileage out of that buck. They
Yeah,
were like Tom. They like big bucks, and they
you
had
can't
that.
lie.
You can't. But they had a pirates line, like
Mhm.
Pirates of the Galaxy, like space pirate
Are they called
line,
Pirates of the Galaxy? I hope
something like
so.
that. It's
That's
Pirates of the
that's
Universe or something.
fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, it was cool. And then they had like the Beast Warriors
Mhm.
that had
See,
the
those are what I
Snake
remember
Men,
more.
yeah, the
Yeah,
Snake guys, the dinosaur guys. It's the same buck with the pirate guys. And they
I
were all
remember.
cool. There was the Hydrax, the guy with the two faces, which was really weird because he had like
Yes.
one neck but two faces. Yeah.
That one I remember. I actually didn't have him, and I remember wanting to find him because I got for one of my birthdays. I remember getting the Triceratops with the that
Hmm.
had like the cool
That
red with the
the
with
red
like
with
the
the
yellow
yellow.
tights.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember being really impressed by the paintwork on him of all things because it
Yeah, he
had
was good looking.
that really cool like gradient from the yellow to the red on the frill. The coloring on the bottom, it had that kind of like underspray to highlight the muscle tone.
Yeah, it was
And
very cool.
they were not the best material, unfortunately, because that was when everyone was trying to still figure out articulation.
Right.
So
The
instead of
the hip joints were
yeah, the
terrible.
the hips would explode. I remember getting him, and there was a bird character.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Who
I forgot.
looked like one of the Skeksis from Dark Crystal.
See, I used him as my stand-in for Voltron. He was. I had to
Yes.
pretend that something happened to him, so he was still out of scale with the Thundercats. And they're like, "What happened to you?" He's like, "I don't want to talk about it. Leave me alone." Um, but he was another one where the hips. It was a weird break. Like the hips broke not like it wasn't the legs snapping off, but for
It
whatever
was
reason,
the
whatever
hip
it was,
bone, that hip bone.
yeah. So
Because
the
they didn't
legs
do
were
the
still
rubber band. It wasn't a rubber
no.
band. It was
It
a
was like
T, a T.
yeah. And yeah, whatever was connecting it to the actual like inner waist would break, so the legs would still be connected, but they'd just be wobbly.
Right.
So,
They'd
so
always
it
stand
was
with a little sass. Like the hip would be off to the side, like
sassy bird.
little sass.
Don't give
Uh
Ultraman any lip, Thundercats. But I loved that line. I remember looking for that two-headed one because
yeah.
I had a dinosaur, again, just a generic dinosaur, and he stood on two legs. The bottom portion was the main body was green, and the head was red, but it had two heads. So,
Mhm.
being the brilliant namesmith that I am, I named him Twinsar. So,
Right?
so I was like, Twinsar needs like either a minion, or I was gonna like make that guy his like wrestling form, and I could never find him. It would have been one of my earliest customs because I remember wanting him to look like that larger figure, and I
Mhm.
could never find them. And now they're just too expensive to get a hold of.
Right. And then they use that buck in the Lost World, the DC like Lost World. They did
Mm-hmm.
Warlord, Hercules, Demos, uh Arak, a couple of characters, but that Warlord was cool. With Warlord with the
Yeah.
white beard. He showed up
Mm-hmm.
in DC Justice League Unlimited cartoon, and
Uh-huh.
then in the War Worlds animated feature length, he showed up in
Mm-hmm.
that. Him and Demos showed up in that.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, but at the
Huh.
time when they came out and we just Warlord Demos, like
Yeah.
we didn't realize they were DC characters.
I had no idea. I thought they were part of like just like I thought they were their own separate line. Who
Yeah,
was the who was the skeleton character? Because I know there's another company that now is making
yeah,
him.
Solo
Uh,
World or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
was
they're sort of paying homage to them. That was
yeah
part of I
was
think
that a
he was
different
part.
line?
I don't think it was in that line, but
Hmm.
it was gray with the red
Yeah,
belt and the hood. I
yeah.
I don't know which line he was from. He might have been like with the Beast Warriors and in that
Hmm.
kind of line, you know?
I like that. I like that Remco had their hands in. They were trying everything out. Like especially once the '80s hit. Like I know in the '50s, because they've been around since the '50s,
Right.
and they were messing around with kind of everything that was popular, like every toy company was doing.
Right.
They
Yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
they
But
had
they
like
shifted on a quickly.
yeah, because they went from cowboys and Indians and like space ray gun and I do you remember the it was Hulk muscles. Do you remember the Hulk muscles kit toy
The
thing that they
inflatable
really?
thing?
Yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
would
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
strap it onto yourself, and they had the little pump, and you would pump it up, and you
Right.
would get Hulk muscles break out of your
Yeah.
shirt. Why haven't we gotten that again? We have the Hulk hands. I
Well,
can't
I
believe
need
that
it. You don't,
nobody.
but
I,
I
I,
need that.
I absolutely need some Hulk muscles. Just put it like SpongeBob. You like put it on, you pump it up, and you inflate it, and I think that's hilarious. But yeah, in the
How cool
'80s,
would it be like at a bar and somebody's acting like a jerk and you're like, don't make me angry. You wouldn't
you
like it,
wouldn't
do you?
like me when I'm
And
angry,
then they
and
say it again and you're like, "Arr!" And then
and they're like, oh crud, he's got Remco Hulk muscles with the little TM on the side where he hot foots it out of the bar. Like, that's
yeah.
right. Don't mess around with Hulk muscles, people.
Mhm.
But yeah, in the '80s, they turned on a dime, and kind of anything that was popular, they kind of I don't want to say front and center, but they were trying it out. They
Yeah.
with the AWA, with the He-Man and Jace line. What
G.I.
got
Joe,
my
they had not only Sergeant
yeah.
Rock, but they had another more articulated called like American Defense
Did,
Spy Unit or something. And it was like the G.I. Joe figures.
did you have any of their? Yeah, we've been talking about Transformers too. Did you have any of their?
Diebots!
Yes. Now,
I have some
so
now.
so I don't know. I don't know which came first, or if they were trying out different marketing. Because I originally knew them as Bibots,
Ah,
Bibots, but more like there's also the Zybots,
the
which is the
Diebots.
exact same line. It's just same font,
I never knew them
and
as Diebots. They were always
it's
Diebots.
hilarious. And I remember not knowing, because I had GoBots and Transformers, and then there was just random other robots that would find their way into my collection, and I didn't know
Right.
what they were. But I
When we were
remember there
playing
being
with, GoBot Transformers during that
mhm,
phase of our play, anything
uh,
robotic, Voltron, Star Wars,
mhm,
whatever, got thrown in the mix. Yeah.
yeah, and it and see, and they kind of follow the same pattern of here's this, here are these Beast Warrior characters who kind of look like He-Man. You could use with your He-Man characters. With Vibots, you had there was a red motorcycle guy who he was
Yep.
just Psykill. He was
Yep.
a Psykill, except he was red with a missing face. That
A
was a
lot of
sticker
them were red
instead.
and orange and yellow. I think
Yeah,
that was like the three colors. It was
I
like a Dick Tracy comic.
I had a weird black semi truck. And
Hmm.
I remember, like, and his transformation was just standing up, and then like you would extend the legs. But because of the way that the transformation worked, and because his the back of the semi was supposed to be meant for, like, it was one of those like long back trucks. You could compress the legs so that they were kind of normal-ish, but if something inside broke, and it was probably going to break within 20 minutes of you
5 seconds.
playing with it, then he just had super long legs. Like, I made the way that I played with him was that was his power. He was like the original stilt man of robots.
Right. Cool. Yeah, I used to love the Zybats. We'd pick them up all the time. And didn't speaking of like He-Man wannabes with bad hips, didn't Remco do Black Star?
I think so. I think
They
Remco
did
did do
do.
Black Star.
Yeah,
Correct us if we're
they had
wrong,
their
viewers.
hips were the worst. They had some serious dancer hips going on. And
Are you
theirs would
saying
go
that?
and they'd go splay like their feet would just and they
Are
were
you
never going to
are,
stand up again.
are you saying their hips do lie?
Yes.
That is
Oh,
unfortunate.
lots of lies.
I the Black Star is another line that I only vaguely recall. Were they the line that had those little goblin
Yeah,
characters?
yeah, and had the sword that glowed in the dark. It was very He-Man. He had
Okay.
two different swords.
Hmm.
His was the Star Sword, and the
Hmm.
bad guy had the I think his name was Overlord. He had a what was called a Power Sword, which
Yeah.
was obviously very He-Man-y.
So that's a line that I get confused. Weirdly enough, I get that line confused with Supernaturals.
Right?
They are nothing alike
Nope, not
except
at
for the
all.
glow in the dark weapons. Because I had one of the
Yeah,
swords from Supernaturals, and it was just
right,
this large. It looked like it belonged in Batman versus Superman, where Batman forgot how to sculpt things nicely.
yes,
His spear is just this badly hewn chunk of kryptonite, and that was the Supernatural sword. But it made sense
right,
for them to have a badly crafted sword.
right. Yeah, it doesn't make sense for Bruce Wayne to leave it chunky looking. Who did have a lot in common though, and I have seen even that one of their color schemes is the same, is like Remco did Mantech, which was
Mhm.
very similar to the Centurions.
Oh, so it was the same gimmick, or?
Same kind of gimmick. There was like the Mantech with the good guys with the helmets were a little more giant, like old school Aquanaut
Mhm.
helmets, but
Yeah.
they had the weapons that connected to them and all these cords, and it was
Mhm.
basically the same type of thing. They had this Mantech armor, and then all
Mhm.
these weapons would attach. And I think the bad guys were cool. They were like purple and black and had horns on their helmet that came straight out.
Mhm.
I think they were called Doom Tech. But
Of course.
of course. But yeah, the Mantech were pretty cool, but they weren't as cool as the Centurions because the
Mhm.
Centurions were bigger, and once you took all the junk off, they still had that cool action figure look. Where the Mantech guys, the junk was all clunky looking,
Yeah.
and it was
That
kind of.
was the first run. I mean,
They
you're
were
never gonna have.
cool. I mean, I have 4 or 5 of them, but
Mhm.
the
Look, when you're
Centurions were
when
much
you're
cooler.
when you're competing with a guy named Ace McCloud,
I
you're
mean, what
not.
are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And then super macho McGround man, like, you're not gonna compete with these people with these
But
super
yeah,
macho 80 names.
well, plus the orange ground guy looked like Keith Hernandez when he took his helmet off. So you couldn't
Sorry, Doom
you
Tech,
can't
you're just
compete
not
with
cutting
that,
the mustard.
especially here on the island. I mean, 16 Golden Gloves, Keith Hernandez. So
So
um,
now, so Remco wound up getting eaten by Jax, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah, I think
And
so. But
Jax is still around.
yes, Remco did some cool things though. They had I like the variety of Remco figures.
Hmm.
I mean, they also did these. Galaxy Defenders, I think they were called. They were like this big, but
Uh,
one of them was like a star-spangled guy, like
mhm,
Captain America. They had a guy
yeah.
that had sort of a Cyclops kind of thing. Like they were all rip-offs
Mhm,
of someone else, but they were cool. And they had one guy with a skull, looked just like the other skull guy, only on a smaller
mhm.
scale. I guess they kind of like that design. Um, but I love those figures. They're just
I,
cool. And then, of
I,
course, I'd be remiss whenever I talk about my older brother Derek, who's been on the show. He
mhm,
he always introduced us to that a different toy line. And
yeah.
like when we were playing GI Joe, and I've brought this up before, he would show up with the Remco, the 1980 Remco Universal Monsters, and then
Mhm.
suddenly, Snake Eyes has to figure out how to fight a werewolf, and and that was cool. You would have liked them because they glowed
Uh,
in the dark. And then, like I've mentioned it before, they did the nine
mhm,
inch guys with the
yeah.
weird, grabby, huggy, Battlematic action, who
Mhm.
also glowed in the dark, Tom. So you need to find those.
I may
Um,
need to track those down.
but like
Now
they
what?
would go from like Universal Monster license to Black Star to Mantech to it
Yeah.
was like in the 80s so many, and we talked about other toy lines that shift on a dime like that, but like Kenner did, but
Yeah.
not as like for lack of a better term, like low budget as Remco. Like Remco did a
Mhm,
lot not being a
yeah.
big toy name. Like they never had those big selling toys. I mean, you at the
Mhm,
time you'd go to the Woolworths and buy those two packs of wrestlers for $7.
yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that they cast a wide net. And who knows what their budget was. They kind of remind me of, I forgot the name of the company that does Final Faction, where they're, with whatever resources they have, they managed to crank out a pretty high quality line for a toy line that costs $1 that you can get in the dollar store.
Yeah.
And they're not bad. You can get like a whole wave. You can go in, you can get
And yeah,
vehicles that
those
are
figures are
updated.
cool.
And
And weapon
Remco,
packs and then update packs. Like you said, you could buy the
yeah,
little rambling
it,
monster thing and then buy the upgrade pack and put armor on it.
it
Whoever's doing that line is a genius. I don't know how they're
oh
doing it
yeah.
for a buck 25.
It makes me wonder, like, can you imagine what they'd be able to do if their budget now allowed them to make $2 toys? Like I feel like they blow it out of the water. I mean,
Right.
but they're
Absolutely.
very much like kind of the spirit of Remco is with those guys
Absolutely.
because
I agree with
they
you.
they did
Go
so
to
much
go
with
to your
Top
Dollar
of the
Tree,
Middle.
folks, and buy Final Faction
Get
figures.
some Final
They're
Faction stuff.
fantastic. And it's a great storyline. They come with a comic, and like these alien creatures lived on the moon. Like that was their home thousands of years ago. And then somehow, I can't remember, went into hibernation. And then we did something to the moon that woke them up. And then they were like, oh, well, let's go mess with these people.
It's always the stupid humans going where we
Always
don't
stupid
belong.
humans. Though,
But it's
Remco did get some big, aside from Universal Monsters, but which wasn't big at the time. But they
yeah,
did get some big licenses. They had Karate Kid,
yeah, that's
and
right. They
then
did
we
have the Karate
discovered
Kid
we
line.
discovered the week before last that they had over the top. The over the top
Yes.
figures were Remco. So the
And
Karate
they
Kid and over the top, it's pretty cool.
and they had a lot of I guess kind of like sitcom based figures and toys that came out in probably like the 70s. I know there was like Bill Cosby Kids, and they had like you said, like they were getting the movies and doing over the top in Karate Kid. So they, yeah, like they, it was like they shot their shot and they managed to do, there were some big names that they managed to get, and when they did a good job with them, because I remember thinking the Karate Kid line was really cool. I didn't own any of them, but I remember the commercials for them and
Right.
the Daniel San that came with the chopping actions, having to chop the
Mhm.
wood. But yeah, they again, I don't know what numbers they were working with, but you got to imagine it was on probably a budget that a company like Mattel or Hasbro or Tyco were yeah, they probably had a lot more in their bank than Remco did, and they
Yeah.
managed to do a lot with probably a whole lot less, which is very
Absolutely.
impressive. I feel
Yeah.
like companies like Ramen Toys now are also channeling the Remco
Yes, they're
spirit.
just kind of
They,
picking and choosing things from here and there, the
yeah,
other place, and kind of
cast a
paying homage. Yeah,
yeah, cast a wide net, see what sticks, sell what you can, and then move on to the next thing that looks like it will work. And that's impressive to me.
yeah, yeah. But in closing, I will say Remco was did some cool stuff, and I remember going and you can take a half a week's allowance and go buy a Remco toy and not really stress about it too much. And
Hmm.
then you always had they always whatever you were playing with at the time,
Hmm.
because we sort of had eras of play. We had the
Yeah,
Star Wars, G.I. Joe, He-Man, superheroes, Transformers, whatever era you were in, they had something comparable. If you were
yeah,
here, you got the Zybots. If you were here, you got the Beast Warriors. If you were here, you got Sergeant Rock. Like they had, if you were here, you got Black Star. They had something for wherever you were. They shifted on a dime to whatever was
yeah.
big. It was impressive. I liked it.
And they'll always be listed with the kind of, like, I guess you could call them like the upper echelon of toy companies. Like, yeah, like,
Yeah,
again, like your Hasbro, your Mattel, your Kenner, your Remco, and they even did the typical thing of how companies would just smush words together to make their company name, where Remco is just a combination of remote and control, and they just
yep,
crammed it together and decided that's going to be our name. That's
right.
fine. But I think that that's a good spot to do our question,
Uh-oh.
which would be,
I didn't study.
if you could pick a toy line that Remco worked on to bring back, what would it be? I think I know your answer, but let's see.
Right,
See
yeah,
if I'm
because
right.
the obvious answer, and I think I've said this. Whenever you ask me that, I'm always like, "Christar, bring back Christar. I want
Do it
Christar.
now.
Bring back Christar now." But I would like to see, and it would be retro, and it would
Mhm,
have to be Jack specific, I would imagine.
mhm,
But I would like to see the old school AWA wrestlers get
mhm.
updated figures like the
Yeah.
ones that like we could get all the classic WWF
Mhm,
figures. Like you could get Barbara Beefcake and Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper and
yeah.
even Wendy Richter and Moolah. Like you can get them all. But I would
Mhm,
love to see them go back and somehow get the AWA license. And let's see,
yeah.
you know, an updated. I mean, there are updated Dusty Rhodes. The problem is a lot of them came to the WWF, Abdullah the Butcher and Kamala and everybody else. But, we haven't gotten, to my knowledge anyway, we
Mhm,
haven't gotten an updated Larry Zbyszko, or I think there was a Stan Hansen that was done. But like,
yeah.
it would be cool to see them done in that old school
Mhm.
style, in their AWA garb.
That
Um,
would that would be
and
nice.
like I said, most of them have been done. Scott Hall's there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Ric Flair, obviously, most of them have been done. Road
Yeah, I bet.
Warriors have been done, but not in the
Mhm.
AWA look.
Yeah, I feel like because WWE has just glommed up everything, that in some way, shape, or form, we've probably gotten a bunch of
Right.
those,
Yeah,
but it would
we've
be nice
gotten
to
Mike
see them in that.
Rotundo, Barry Windham. We've gotten
Yeah,
them all, but
yeah. Uh,
Chris
I
Dunn.
100% Krista. And that's
Yeah.
I think Krista is a solid choice
Wait,
because
didn't
there's so many
Remco do
things
SWAT cats?
they did towards the end. Towards like the end of them being Remco, I think that was one of the last lines that they did
Right, because
was
every
in
time I
fact
think
SWAT
SWAT
cats.
cats, I want to say Playmates, right? But
Yeah,
it was Remco.
yeah, it teetered right along that line. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, well, they absolutely were inspired by the Playmate style, because by then Ninja Turtles had come out, so everyone
Yeah,
was doing their insert adjective anthropomorphic animal character, and then you had SWAT Cat. So anyone could jump on whatever license, and it makes me wonder if they had lasted a little bit longer, if they would have jumped on the Battletoads license,
yeah, that would
because
have been cool. I wish
yeah,
somebody would take a snap. I wish Super Seven would get the SWAT cats.
yeah, there was an attempted reboot, and I think it may have been a Kickstarter that popped up. This is years ago, possibly almost a decade ago, where there was an attempted relaunch of SWAT Cats, and it didn't fund,
It
or
didn't.
wound up falling through, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I would love to see that redone, because it's such a cool, slick design to
Right.
the
And
show. The
again,
animation was really good.
yeah, the animation was good, but again, those opening
Mhm.
credit scenes
They sucked you in, and then you
sucked
were
you
like,
right.
wait a minute.
Yeah. So who's
uh,
your line? Who's gonna be your Remco line?
I want to build off of what you mentioned, where if we were getting an updated AWA line, I would want that to branch off into that Beast Warrior line because I
Yeah.
love those things. And there is a I don't
I
remember
mean,
if it's
Solo World's doing it, calling it the realm of darkness or the
I
under
think so.
realm or something.
Yeah, they're kind of focusing on I think like the monster
Realm, realm,
wave.
realm of the underworld, I think.
Mhm. There was recently there because they had an exclusive at ZoloCon
Yeah.
recently, and I
Yep.
too expensive for me right now, but it did look really cool, and
Yeah, they're
it
coming
like
down,
I
but
could.
again, if I want that, I could go on eBay and get the original Beast Warrior guys for the
Mhm,
same cost, and that's what I would
mhm.
do.
Yeah, I would love to see an updated. I if Jax wanted to prod Mattel, I would like to see them reach back into the Remco catalog,
And crack it out.
pull, yeah, crack out your Beast Warrior line, or I forgot if that's the actual
It
name.
is, I
But
think
like,
so.
okay, get the Beast Warrior line. Maybe AWA. I don't know how much you want to prod them. Get the Beast Warrior line. Make them compatible with Masters of the Universe Origins, because
Mhm.
that's what the original line did anyway.
Okay.
And make that line. Make
I
those
like those
animals.
bucks
Make those
better than the
creatures.
He-Man bucks, honestly.
They were so cool, and they had because they had a decent amount of variety to them. I mean, great,
Yeah.
He-Man did too, but these were different. But they could
Yeah,
also
the
fit
AWA guys
in.
had two bucks, the fat guys and the buff
Mhm.
guys. You felt
Yeah,
there was no in between.
like I would love to see them, or if Mattel seems a little more open to doing their crossover things. They've done Ninja Turtles. They've done we've just seen more of the He-Man Thundercats crossover things. I would love for even Mattel, if they're on their crossover kick, to go to Jax and be like, hey, we know way back in your archives, because you own everything that Remco owns, you've got these Beast Warrior guys who we would love to have as Skeletor's minions. Let's do a
Right.
crossover where it's Master Universe X
They
Beast
even had Snake
Warriors,
Men.
or
There were Snake Men.
yeah,
There was a line of them called Snake Men.
yep, and do them as an homage to that old style. But I'm also still waiting for Mattel to just thumb their nose and do Forza T, because that was a thing
Right.
that happened too, and they knew they shouldn't have been doing it, but they did anyway. And I would love
Right.
for Mattel to just take it back and be like, yeah, it's ours now because you used our stuff in our mold, so it's our we're putting it out there. But I would
Right.
love to see Mattel take a swing, or Jax. Like if Jax has the technology, or understands that we can just make something that's a little more compatible with this pre-existing line. It's that we're not them, everyone. This is our own stuff. But if you like playing with these and you want to
Mhm.
play with them together, you could also do that as well and add some spice to your toy collection. I would love to see that, because I think that would be neat. I'd be
Yeah.
on board. So I guess that'll bring us to a close for another episode of Two Guys Talking Toys. And if you would like to let us know what your favorite Remco toy line is, or what you'd love to see them redo them as, get a hold of us on Blue Sky. Our handle is Two Guys Talking Toys. That is number 2, no G after the talking. Same thing for our Gmail. You can find us on Instagram at 2G Talking Toys. And until then, every boy loves a Remco toy, even girls. Man, I know at the time there was just we gotta put a line out, we gotta do this, and then we gotta move on, and we gotta try something else. But I really wish that Crystar had gotten, and I probably would have been more into it had this happened, if they had gotten the He-Man treatment, where
Yeah, there
they're
was
like,
no big cartoon.
yeah, like, Redstone Crystar, like, dude, go full Kryptonite with them. Black, tainted Eclipse Black Star, where he's like the smoky black because he's gone evil, and red eyes, and an evil sword, or I don't know, cool molten Moltar, like any of that.
They
Like,
could have done. They could, since he was Marvel, they could have made actually Crystar one of the Infinity Stones.
that would have been amazing. If in some weird, twisted way, like the Infinity Gems actually came from Crystar's world, and they were in fact beings that inhabited that
Why
planet,
wouldn't it?
that would make so much sense in the world. And then Thanos showed up and just pummeled them until they were just a tiny fraction of what they were.
It was like Superman with the coal.
Yeah, just condensing them down. And they're like, no, please stop. Crystar's the last of his kind. They're like, what gem are you? And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. Leave me alone.
I'm the one that's left.
I'm sad and I'm alone.
I'm the only gem he didn't want.
His friend's like, hey man, I'm still here. You're only half crystal. No one wants you.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a precious gem. But they're like, yeah, but you're truly outrageous. And then boom, we've got the next cartoon.
Truly outrageous. Crystar on the keytar, jamming it up with jamming synergy.
Synergy, yes.
Synergy. Oh, the crossovers that could happen. We've been robbed.
Yep.
Robbed of so many crossovers.